They finally made this goddamn show. They've been working on it forever, and now it's finally here. Damn it, somebody stole my fucking Halo shirt! Halo, the series, episode 1 is brought to us by director Otto Bathurst and stars Pablo Schreiber, Olive Gray, and Urian Ha. In the year 2552, humans on the planet Madrigal fight for independence from Earth, but a fatal encounter with the alien covenant complicates things. So here it is, finally, the long-fabled Halo series, episode 1, Contact. And with episode 1, we get to know the Halo world like we've never seen it before. So I'm a big Halo fan of the games and other media, the books, the TV shows. They haven't really been TV shows, they've been like web series, and some of them have even been made into movies. I reviewed those, I played the games, I've done all that stuff. I know the lore, I've read a couple of the books, and Halo has a very deep and expansive lore. The lore in this universe is pretty insane. So it was ripe for a cinematic telling. And yeah, I know this is a series, but this is very cinematic. We got Steven Spielberg behind this thing, Microsoft, Paramount, Showtime. There is a lot of money and big names behind this thing. It got announced in like 2013 or 14 at E3. Not to mention the legendary failed movie project from years ago. They've been working on a Halo live action thing for a really long time. And typically when something has such a troubled production, like literally over like 15, 20 years they've been trying to make this thing, the end product does not always fare so great. Also, when you're adapting such a beloved and long-running known IP, you can run into some issues as well. They're clearly gonna take some creative license here because it is a new medium for this universe. But whenever you start fucking with very beloved characters and universes, you are setting yourself up for failure. So, the Halo TV show, how did it finally turn out? Well, from a fan's perspective, this show was pretty fucking badass. At least the first episode was. Now, Paramount didn't send me a copy of this. I had to wait to watch it like everybody else. And I know some people have already been able to see the first 2 episodes. I've only seen episode 1, and that's all I can speak for is episode 1. And I gotta say, if episode 1 is anything to go on, this show's gonna be fucking awesome. What I like the most about the show, beyond just the production values and how cool it was and everything it set up, was that this show is gonna be fun for everybody. Even people that know nothing about Halo. You've never played a game. You've never read a book, you know nothing about Halo beyond maybe just the name. They did a really good job of setting things up, letting you know what's going on, at least within this world that they're creating. But what else it does is really give the people that do know this world everything that we're wanting. It didn't really change a lot about Halo. The Master Chief is the Master Chief. Yeah, I know it's not Steve Downes' voice in there. I mean, Steve Downes is kind of old. He's not gonna get up there and play this character. Love the voice, and yeah, there's a part of me that wishes at least when the helmet was on, yes, the helmet comes off at some point, that Steve Downes was the one doing the voice, but Pablo Schreiber as Master Chief in this show does a really good job. The weapons, the vehicles, the world, just everything Halo about this show up to this point is on point. From an avid Halo player, I really enjoyed this show. There are obviously some things that they've changed here, but nothing monumental. There are a few things here or there. There's some motivations that have been changed. The timeline, from what I can tell, is a little bit different. There are some things that within the original Halo universe that should have already happened that clearly haven't happened by the time it looks like this show takes place. But I'm okay with that because it seems like they have maintained the spirit of what Halo is. Now, there's been a lot of talk about where the show is going to go, who they're going to focus on, what it's going to be. And I can't really judge that at this point. I can only judge what I've seen in this episode. And from this episode, episode 1 of this series, I really really am enjoying it. When it ended, all I wanted was more. I really wish I could binge this show. I want to know what happens next. I'm not gonna ruin the story, just know that it does involve insurgents within this very expansive universe, and there's a war between two human factions, while at the same time there's an alien faction as well. Now this takes place during a time that the Covenant is known to the UNSC, which is the Earth people, if you will, for those of you that don't know about Halo and its lore, but they're not necessarily known to everyone out there. Like the insurgents and people on other planets, they don't know about the Covenant. The Covenant, by the way, is the hostile alien race that's kind of like some religious zealots. This episode did a really good job of setting all this stuff up. We don't get too much of any of these factions, but we do get just enough to get a little bit of an insight into each one. We get some time with the insurgents, we get some time with the Covenant, we get some time with the UNSC, and of course we get some time with that bad motherfucker that we all love, the Master Chief. And honestly, for me, the Master Chief was the wild card in this whole thing. I really didn't know how they were going to do that. How are they going to have this character as the main character when all these years the Master Chief has always been kind of a vessel for the player? They have purposely not given him a tremendous amount of character because he is supposed to be you, the player. Now in the expanded universe, he does have more character, he has backstory, there's a lot that's happened to this guy, and I think that's the direction they're gonna go. There are things that they show in this show that signify to me that in the future, we are going to learn more about the Master Chief and the Spartan program and everything that happened with them when they were children. And believe me, that shit's pretty fucked up, and that could be a show all on its own. What direction they're gonna go with all that, I don't know. But it is a direction that I think that they are going to go down at least a little bit in this show. The show also gives us a healthy dose of action pretty much right out the gate. It lets you know, hey, you know what, this is Halo, we're gonna have story, we're gonna expand on lore, we're gonna have characters, all that stuff, but we are also very aware that this is based on an action military series, and we're gonna give you that, and we're gonna give it to you in the most badass awesome way. Halo, for the most part, has been a mature rated game. It's never been like a slaughter fest. I mean, yeah, there's lots of shooting, lots of bad guys go down, but there's not just like blood everywhere or anything. It's had some, but this ain't like Mortal Kombat or anything. So when it came to the show, I was wondering, what direction are they gonna go? I wasn't expecting it to be like hyper violent or hyper adult. I figured this was gonna be kind of a PG-13 affair. And in the first few minutes, that's kinda what you think you're getting, but then, oh shit, they said, oh no, that's not what we're doing at all. We're going full on fucking M-rated, R-rated, whatever you wanna call it. Blood, guts, just fucking language. This is fucking hardcore, okay? If you were wondering if this show was gonna be for the kiddos, no, it's not. There is violence in this show that is fucking insane. I'm talking heads exploding, bodies getting ripped in half, some horrific shit. Not to mention some of the people that it's happening to, we don't usually see that. There are a particular set of individuals it happens to closer to the beginning of the show that I was like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, they did that. They're showing us right out the gate that they ain't fucking playing. The action scenes here are really exciting and very well done, and they look fantastic. The show as a whole looks fantastic. It's very effects heavy too, and all the effects, well, for the most part, the effects look great. Now that being said, there are one or two effects here or there that stood out as, okay, well, you dropped the ball there. It's never anything really big. All the big stuff looks great, and for the vast majority, like 98% of the show, everything looks fantastic, but there is that 2%. There's one or two little things that stick out like a sore thumb. Case in point, near the beginning of this big conflict in the beginning of the episode, there is someone who drops a gun, and we see that gun hit the ground. It is clearly a like CGI gun, and it just looks really bad. There's also a couple of other shots of characters that are moving in ways that human beings can't, and I'm cool with that because they're like super soldiers, but when they drop to the ground, their mass, their weight, the animation, if you will, seems a bit off. Now that might be because these are like super soldiers and they're really heavy, so maybe they drop differently, but it doesn't change the fact that it looks a little off. It's not terrible by any means. The gun part, that was pretty fucking bad, especially when compared to everything else, but the other stuff isn't terrible, but you do notice it. But I feel like we're nitpicking here because as a whole, this show looks fucking amazing. And not just in the effects department, just the look of the show overall looks great. This is a very well-made, high-dollar production. So if you're worried about this huge, expansive world of Halo going into the TV space, don't be, because it looks great. This is like movie-level effects and movie-level just everything across the board. Now, Halo's never been just like all about the action and all that. I mean, it is an action game. The game parts of that are, you know, about the action and the war and all that, but it's also been about the story, the lore, all the stuff that's going on in this world. It's very expansive, like I said, and the show has that as well. It sets up quite a bit in this episode. Like I said, they go from each of the different factions at different points in the show, and each of these visitations, if you will, that we get with these different factions is setting up more in the universe. We meet characters that we know we're gonna get more of later on. We know these characters have a bigger part to play because, you know, the show's focusing on them. We don't necessarily get everything that's going on in these scenes, but we know enough to know that this is something that's gonna come up later. We need to pay attention to this. It's little tantalizing tidbits that they drop throughout the show that really get the gears to turning, to making you wonder, where's all this going? What's going to happen later on? Now, the episode is by design a lot of setup. It's not boring setup or anything. I mean, everything that's happening is very interesting, but it is, at the end of the day, all setup. But that's okay. You gotta have setup to have the payoff. To go somewhere, you have to set it all up, and obviously you're gonna do that in the beginning. Had they just jumped right into it and started going and not explained what was going on, well, yeah, people such as myself that are very well versed in this lore, in this universe, we would have been able to catch up. Even though they've changed some stuff, they kept things the same enough that we would have been able to catch on. But everybody else in the world that knows nothing about Halo would have been like, what the fuck is going on? Why did you start a show like this? So we have to have this setup. But even though it is a bunch of setup, they did it right, man. They kept this interesting. They show us characters, some of which are totally new, that we're not familiar with, even if you know the lore. I want to know more about. One in particular with the Covenant, I'm really curious and interested in this character. This character may have shown up in some expanded lore that I'm not familiar with, but the mainline lore and some of the expanded, this character's not there. So I'm really interested to know what's up with this person. Also, where the show is going beyond the credit. They've set up a very interesting and compelling arc by the end of this episode that I honestly don't know where it's going. Obviously, I'm staying vague on story beats because I don't want to give it away, because this is absolutely worth you going and checking out yourself. Paramount Plus, to me, just hasn't had a lot of value up to this point, but I'm gonna go out there and go ahead and say that, yeah, this show is absolutely worth that $9 a month Paramount Plus subscription. They obviously ain't paying me shit because they wouldn't even send me the show. I mean, they don't even return my calls, but that's nothing new. A lot of people don't. I'm really excited to see where this show is going. I cannot wait until next week to see the next episode. And hey, Paramount, anybody out there who like works there or whatever, come on, man, throw me a bone. Throw me some of these episodes in advance. I'd love to review them early. Unless the show's just gonna go to other shit and you know that I'm gonna rip you a new asshole for it, then you might not want to send them to me then. But if the show's going in the direction I'm hoping it is, and it stays with the quality of this first episode, yeah, send them to me, man. Guys, episode 1 of the Halo series was fucking awesome. This is everything I wanted out of a Halo show. I know I've been kind of all over the place with this, and I've been trying as hard as I can not to fanboy out, but man, as a fan and just as a lover of sci-fi and a lover of film and just cinematic experiences and storytelling, this was great. They did everything right here. They made all the right moves, and they've got 8 more episodes after this one in this season, and I just hope they continue on for those 8. I am really excited to see those episodes, and I will absolutely be here next week at least to talk to you about the second episode. If the show keeps going, I'll do every episode after that. I don't really know how to rate this on my rating scale that I usually use for movies, so I'm not gonna go there. I'm just gonna say that, yeah, this show is absolutely worth checking out, even if you're not a Halo fan. Hell, it's worth getting that subscription at least while this show is on. So I know that this review was a little bit different than my regular reviews. I mean, it is what it is. It's a TV show. I usually don't do those. I'm doing the best I can. But go out, check out the Halo show. It is absolutely worth your time. It's pretty fucking awesome. I think you're gonna have a great time with it. So there it is, guys. My review of Halo, the series, episode 1. That's a mouthful. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below and become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits that go along with that, like these guys, and possibly join my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Greg C and Dragon Con. If you like video games or you want to see somebody play video games such as Halo really badly and fail a lot, then check out my new gaming channel, Jag. Link in the description. Any support is appreciated. If you like the what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Harvest.
Silver team, on me.
So I know I left a lot of stuff out of this review about the show, and a lot of that is because I don't want to give things away, because there are actually things in this show that are different, and I want the fans of Halo, the people that are in the know about that lore, to be surprised as well. My point is, yeah, I know I left some characters out. I didn't talk about specific characters and events in this show. That's not what I was here to do. I was here to give you my overall thoughts and let you know if I think it's worth you checking out. If this show continues on that trajectory and just does as great as this episode, and it's just an awesome series, I will give it that. I will say it was an awesome series. It's absolutely worth it. But I will knock this motherfucker down at least 1 or 2 notches if Sergeant Johnson does not at least make some type of cameo. He's got to show up. The guy's got to be here. You cannot have Halo without Sergeant Johnson. Now, the Walking Dead fans always said, you kill Daryl and we'll riot. Well, motherfucker, you best believe that we Halo fans, you don't have Sergeant Johnson and we will fucking riot. I mean, your show's still fucking badass and I'll give it good ratings for that. But I'll knock it the fuck down if Johnson ain't there. All right, ladies, come on, assholes and elbows. Another day in the Corps. I love that hardened son of a bitch.